All right. Thank y'all so much for being here today to talk about 4 systems every home builder, every remodeler, contractor, business owner, whatever needs to build the right people that builds the right business. So before we get going, just wanted to introduce you to me and my family. My name's Thomas Joyner. I'm the director of coaching here at Business on Purpose, and super excited. So this is my crew. This was my son who's holding the football right there. He's all about football right now. So it's pouring down rain. So we had a flag football party, and that's my son T right there in the Jaguars jersey. Nan, the little Spitfire crazy girl right there in the cheerleader costume, my wife Rebecca, and then my son Robbie. So if I start slurring my words or not making any sense, just know that that's my life right now, is not really making sense a whole lot. So just nod with me like that. We'll get through it, and we'll keep moving. So anyways, I don't know how many of you guys are parents, or even if you remember kind of the second week of having your kid. I will never forget T when we brought him home. He's actually adopted. You know, first week, it's all rainbows and butterflies, right? Just riding on adrenaline. You know, we got this. But week 2 is the week that kind of starts to bite back a little bit. The week that not sleeping at night and kind of just the newness starts to wear off, and it adds up, and it kind of becomes this like recipe for disaster, right? And so I was working full time and coaching high school lacrosse at the time. And my wife and I would kind of alternate nights being on baby duty. Since he's bottle fed, it just worked out. And so, you know, the first night, my wife had a really rough day that day. It was like a Tuesday. And I said, hey, I'll be Superman today, right? You get sleep, even though it's supposed to be your night. It's okay. I'll take it. And it was one of those nights, guys, to where it's every night you set them down, or every 10 minutes you set them down, they spit the passy out. And from midnight till 5:30 a.m., you know, maybe 45 minutes of sleep. And so it's all right. I'm up and down the stairs. I'm throwing him in the car, trying to get him to sleep doing that. And then the next day comes. I've got an away game, lacrosse game. And so I leave for that about 1 p.m., get home about 10:30, get off the bus, and I'm wiped out. And my wife hands me the kid. She goes, hey, it's scheduled to be your night. We're not going to get in an argument about this, right? We're just going to keep going. All right, I can do this. I can be Superman the second night in a row. And it's always the second night that gets you, right? So that night, 11 p.m., he's just ticked at the world. I'm taking him in the car. He's in the stroller. I'm like, I always wondered what our neighborhood looked like at 3 a.m. Well, I figured that out really quick. And so about 3:30 a.m., I've absolutely had it. And I've actually got a great video of what it looks like. About 3:30, I pick him up, and in tears, I walk to our bedroom, and I literally kicked the door in, and I yelled, I need some bleeping help, right? My wife sprints out of bed, says, just give me the baby. Still have my shoes on, climb into bed, and fell asleep because I was so exhausted. And I love that kind of metaphor for where we get in our business sometimes, right? Because in life, in business, in sports, we do desperate things in desperate times in order to solve desperate problems. The last 3 years have created this kind of desperate longing. And so let's articulate the challenge that you're up against today. This pain of skyrocketing material and subpricing, right? Uncertainties and subcontractor frustrations. People. We hear about that all the time. Schedule delays. And so let's think of some of the desperate things we've done to try to solve those problems. Go more intensely after deposits and draws or receivables. Maybe you're in the habit of using tomorrow's deposits to pay yesterday's payables. It's dangerous game. Maybe we've hired marketing companies to get more leads and sales because sales solves everything, right? No, even though we don't have a measure in place to manage the money, even if it did come in. Maybe we've tried to buy bulk material or hired and fired, and just on and on it goes, right? We're running around spinning in circles, slave to an overheated market, the client to the employee to the sub to the vendor, you name it. And we just want it to stop just for a second so we can catch our breath. You know, we talked to a custom builder in Kentucky a few weeks ago who said, I'm actually looking forward to a market slowdown. I kind of like cringed as I was waiting for the lightning to strike, looking forward to a market slowdown. Chaos can lead us to saying some wild things and going some scary places. Seen it reported recently that both quarterback Russell Wilson and the basketball megastar LeBron James, they each spend over $1 million on the health and fitness of their mind and body every year because they realize how important it is to their success. And so here's the hard reality. Trying to control pricing and material logistics is a lot like trying to control the weather. You can't control it, but you can forecast and adjust plans based on the latest information. And here's what you can do. You can prepare. And I love that word. We talk about it all the time because it's actually two Latin words that are kind of smushed together. The word pre or pre, right? Meaning before, and this parare, the make ready. How do we make ourselves and our business ready before something goes drastically wrong? We always tell the story about Kobe Bryant, right? He's 41 when he and his daughter died tragically in a helicopter crash in January of 2020. It was awful. And yet he was notorious for his relentless work ethic. And these writers tried to capture and chronicle some of his remarkable disciplines. He would practice from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. in high school every morning before school. Shaq, who was one of his best teammates, said he would practice without a basketball, just visualization, and mind preparation, right? Not sitting there with a basketball, making shot after shot, no, but picturing it in his head so that he could perform when the lights were on. He had Nike alter a few millimeters off the bottom of his shoes to achieve 1/100th of a second better reaction time. You've got to love the process, the daily grind. This generation loves the results too much. I love the preparation more than the competing part. That's what he said. And an NBA scout who noticed in 2008 the difference in him and Allen Iverson, he said, Allen Iverson loves to play when the lights come on. Kobe loves playing before the lights come on. And so here's a question for us when it comes to recruiting and hiring and just our business in general. It's easy to scream and yell and turn over the tables and just run out with a new idea and just rally the troops and get some momentum. But no, in the face of all this unpredictability and personnel challenges and just disrupted schedules, can you commit to playing before the lights come on? And so here's something I may get some disagreement on. These, contrary to popular opinion, are not desperate times. They're not unprecedented. They're just times. This is our reality. We want to say everything's new and everything's unprecedented. And yet the old ecclesiastical saying rings true. There's nothing new under the sun. These are just today's times. And so how do we break out of that mindset and that prison in our own business? How do we finally get off the treadmill? How do we stop constantly putting out fires and feeling pulled in so many different directions and throwing Hail Marys and just simply continuing to do the things that we've always done them? Because we know where that leads. It leads to insanity. It leads to just running around day after day, hoping that something changes. Now, the other way is to replicate the delivery of every part of our small business and make it so predictable that others can run it the exact same that we would. And it also gives those team members the freedom to use their skill set instead of being slowed down by confusion and a lack of predictability. We're so obsessed about trying to find the right people when in reality, the more predictable strategy is to build a great system where a variety of people can come and join in and do it the way that we want them to do it. Hope you guys remember this old Jewish phrase, write the vision down so that those who read it may run. Well, the same is true for processes that make up your vision. And in fact, we could probably tweak it to say, write the processes down so that those who read and implement them may run your business. The truth is, guys, if you don't write it down, you don't own it. And neither can your team. You know, leading in business, it can be this ultimate opportunity to set others free to live in their skill set, to serve customers and employees, vendors, your community, your global community, all at the same time. That's right. It can be this massive force for living out your convictions and serving others, but it will never get there just doing the things that got you to this point. Right here's a picture of our backyard right here in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And I get this constant reminder of a real living, breathing process every single day. Behind our house, the tide comes in between 7 and 9 feet every 6-ish hours, right? And then 6 hours later, it's completely empty again. This water just floods the marsh every single day, twice a day, and it completely empties out. It's just a process, right? Just like the Earth's rotation and the seasons are processes. There's simply these series of repeatable actions or steps in order to achieve a particular end. When processes aren't in place, what you may get is creativity, right? But it won't be repeatable creativity. And if it's not repeatable, then other people won't run it the way that you want to. It may be great, but when they run out of energy, they're going to make it up as they go. And that's where your accountability goes out the window and the performance drops. But when a process is in place, what you get is a replication of the original creativity. I'm so glad, right, that it sunsets a process because it's something we can enjoy on repeat. just like your processes. You want to be able to enjoy them, to equip your team and empower the rest of your team to do it time after time after time, so that you can focus on doing what only you need to be doing in the business, which is generating new leads, onboarding new customers, and on it goes. And then once those are processed, then you're again equipping and empowering others to facilitate. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Hope you guys see where this is going. Imagine that you had every process in your business documented. If you've been around us for a while, you've seen this before. It can be written down, it can be recorded on video. Regardless, it brings massive clarity to everyone you might bring into the business. Then, once documented, you focus on training this to capable people who can replicate your brilliance and your creativity. It's really franchising your business, right? I'm not even saying that you would want to franchise your business, but wouldn't it be great if others could run your business with the same clarity and mission and focus that you run your business with, and freeing yourself up to lead? Guys, welcome to the Master Process Roadmap. On this kind of magical sheet of paper, right? We document the title of every major process that makes your business work. And with this one sheet of paper, the process clarity that comes with it, and never forget, lots of just repetitious implementation, you'll begin to create a repeatable business that pushes you and your team towards your vision, helps you live out your mission, and it keeps you in line with your core values. With this, you'll have built out a curriculum for training that'll make you feel like you're running a full-scale business university for your team. Training will become a hallmark of your small business, and the product will become less and less unpredictable, and it'll help you just to stay consistent day after day after day as habits and time reinforce. I want to tell you guys just a quick story about a client I've been working with for a few years. So this is Hunter Marcy right here. He spent 2,000 hours. We literally counted them up in 2021, wearing a tool belt in his trim carpentry business, driving nails, cutting boards, you name it. And in 2022, well, he spent less than 500 hours wearing that tool belt, right? The rest is now spent working on his business, doing things like vision planning, training, pioneering new crews, job costing, and making sure that he has time for what he deems matters most. And here's what I want you to notice. He looks like most of you, but he doubled down on being liberated from chaos, and he did something about it. Now, in order to create a business that can run without you, you must build up a team that's excited to run without you, which means you've got to build this map that accurately reflects your business so that those who read it can run. And so welcome to the construction of a business. In business, we tend to get distracted by what is on the outside. We see logos and signs and branding and products, and we think, man, they're crushing it, right? While on the inside, the owner of that business feels like they're the ones being crushed by the weight of chaos and burden. They own the business, but in reality, the business owns them, and they feel like somewhere deep inside, what they've really built is this house of cards. Now, every business has 5 cornerstones on concrete slab foundation and 4 wall systems. Those are the principles of the business. First, these 5 foundational cornerstones of every business, whether you're building homes or remodeling or whatever you happen to be doing, right? Right here, it's easy, it's simple. Next, every business must have a sturdy concrete foundation that's made up of the ingredients of culture and planning, things like processes and weekly schedules, bank accounts, delegation, 12 weeks budgeting, processes, job roles, on it goes. That foundation, sturdy concrete foundation that you can build up from there. Finally, every business has 4 primary systems that must operate with repetition and predictability. These 4 walls of admin, right, or accounting, of operations, of everything that you're doing on your day-to-day task list, of marketing, right? How are we getting people to understand who we are and really what we do? And then sales, how do we capitalize on that market right there, on that marketing? Now, the complexity of the walls in the system, like they vary between business to business, right? You might say, Thomas, we've got HR, or we've got this or that. That's okay. They're all going to kind of fit within these general categories a little bit. And if not, that's okay. Tweak it for your business. But we got to be careful that we're not so lost and distracted by just the day-to-day of payables and receivables and sub challenges and all that, that we build systems and people to work through that while you focus on these kind of taxing emotional parts of your business, right? We can't get so distracted that we don't just go back to the blocking and the tackling. Don't get so focused on the beauty of the interior design that you forget to take care of the foundation. Like we say all the time, give me a world-class training with average talent who implements every day, over world-class talent and average training. This little known secret that when you begin to offer world-class training to average talent, that talent begins to rise to the level of your training. So let me show you how to build a process roadmap real quick, right? You're probably saying, Thomas, what does this have to do with recruiting and hiring? Well, we'll get there in just a little bit. So I'm going to show you a process roadmap right here. It's on one sheet of paper, right? We're going to start with the 4 systems, right? Those 4 systems that we just talked about: admin, operations, marketing, and sales. It's right there. Now focus on one system, okay? You can see right here, we kind of got highlighted the admin phase, okay? So write the major processes within each system. Super simple. Just start a brain dump, right? Payables, receivables, bookkeeping, office management, on and on and on it goes. Maybe HR is thrown in there. Then adopt the systems mindset. The next task you do, document and record it like it's the last time you'll do that task. Yeah, Thomas, look, we've got this, but we know we've tried this stuff before. We've done a manual before. It'll just sit on the shelf like everything else. Well, you're right. You're right if you let it. And so where do you put it so that you will actually use it? Well, what we do is we put it into our team meetings. And let me give you a real life example. Our BOP coaching team, we realized we had a breakdown in our new client onboarding process. One of our coaches brought this up and we added it to our weekly coaches meeting written agenda. We reviewed it as a team. Our process was updated. Our master process roadmap reflected it, right? Because it's a cloud-based document. So as soon as we type it in there, anybody who has access to it gets the new process, and we moved on. The greatest gift you can give your business and your team is the gift of clarity from chaos. Let me say that again. The greatest gift you can give your business and your team is the gift of clarity from chaos. That sets the stage for what we're about to talk about, which is attracting people, retaining people, not because you're cool, but because your process is cool, because they're supported in their role. And so if you step into an interview with a business who can show you a job role that's written down, that can show you written processes that you'll be trained on, and this ultimate end goal, the vision for the company of where you're headed, why would you not work for them over another one who doesn't have any of it and just says, hey, trust us, come on board, we'll get you there? No, it's an easy choice. 10 times out of 10, you pick the one that's written down and organized in a way that will lead you towards a vision. All right, so we've built the foundation you're bringing people into, right? We've got all our systems and processes. We know where we're headed. Now let's talk recruiting and hiring for a minute. But remember, if we don't have that foundation, what are we recruiting and hiring towards? We're recruiting and hiring towards chaos. No, that's why we always start with the foundation. So let me throw a few fun facts out about Gen Z, right? Anybody frustrated with Gen Z employees right now? Like, some would say they're the best. Others would say, nope, they're definitely not the best. So let's give a few thoughts on that, right? They are people who were born between the late 90s and about 2008, right? So there are people who are quickly entering the workforce and maybe who've been around for a little bit. First thing about them is they are shrewd consumers that value their identity and how that's shown to the world, right? Whether that's through their purchases, through social media, their lifestyle choices, kind of right where they work, they're carefully curated in how they present themselves. Thought that was fascinating. Second thing, they're pragmatic and financially minded. It's a generation that actually watched their families really affected by the recessions of 08, 09, and they watched them take those hits. And so they're actually driven by a financial pragmatism and security. They really desire that security, and they're shaped by the financial stresses that their families and communities faced during those recessions. Third thing, and this is the one that we're going to hit on, they value spectacle over substance. What does that mean? They want a show. They want to be entertained and feel excitement. And whether you agree with that or not, it's still true. They want a show, want to be entertained, want to feel excitement. This past year, the University of Louisville football team got more 4- and 5-star recruits on campus than ever before because of this right here. They asked their high-income donors to bring sports cars and drive them onto the field and let recruits come and just walk through them and sit in them and take pictures in them. They flew in on private jets and let the recruits all over them taking pictures, and it worked. They got talent on campus, and they were able to pitch them on their football program, right? They got more 4- and 5 stars, right? The best high school recruits in the country to come to Louisville than ever before. But here was the problem. They had spectacle, but not a ton of substance. It was a flash in a pan with no championship picture to back it up. Because when you look at it, you don't think about championships with Louisville football. On the flip side, University of Georgia spent $3.6 million on recruiting in 2021. That blows my mind. That's not even including some of the new stuff with the name and image and likeness money that was promised. No, that's just on attracting, recruiting, entertaining, and marketing to high school students and convincing them to come play football at Georgia. So if we break that down, it comes down to $144,000 per student athlete that signed to play at UGA. That's not even once they're on campus. That's just to recruit them to come. It's an insane spectacle, but for them, in the schools like Alabama, there's also substance behind it. You walk the halls of their recruiting centers, and there's massive pictures of their athletes that have gone on to play in the pros. There's trophy cases full of conference championships and national championships. There's detailed meetings with recruits of here's how we would use you on offense or defense and the plan for them when they come. And here's kind of the flip side, right? Because here's what they don't say. They don't say, hey, just sign on and trust us, right? We've got it. Here's what we think we'll have you doing. It's fine, but we'll figure it out once you get here. And yet, isn't that what we do? Most of our hiring and prospecting and recruiting looks like this. We put out this half-hearted ad on Facebook or Indeed that's vague at best. And we just kind of cross our fingers and we hope, well, maybe we have an interview process, but not a recruiting process. There's very little spectacle. And if that's what Gen Z is looking for, then we're simply missing the boat. And if we're missing the boat, then we're missing the talent, right? Because if we're not getting people to come in and check out what we're doing, we're just missing it. We're missing the people that could be added to our teams because we don't know how to recruit them. And so here's what I've seen that worked recently. With an engineering firm that I work with locally, they dared to ask, what is something that we could add to a new engineering grad that no one else is doing? We sat down and we talked through it, and we went back to some of their staff and some of their team, and we said, hey, when you were coming out, what were some of the frustrations that we could potentially solve and come up with? The one they finally landed on, they said there's no plan for an engineer that's hired. It's come on board, do engineering, and we'll eventually get you where you need to be. But very little time put into what's the plan. And so what their team took this and built out was they built out a plan to go from designer, kind of this entry-level position, to professional engineer in 4 years. They had said it had been taking probably 6+, but actually getting your certification, being ready to be a project manager in 4 years. Now, to some of you, that sounds like an eternity, but to an engineer, that's unheard of. To look a grad in the eyes, show them the timeline, show them the plan, show them how you're going to get them there, put substance behind the spectacle. Because we can come in and do these recruiting days and have a blast and tell them how much they're going to make. But if we don't have a plan for where they're headed, it's just nothing of substance. For us, it was knowing that we wanted to hire 8 new coaches in the next 3 years. So we had to have a training plan in place. And so it was recording almost 50 videos of how to coach and all of our mindset and practical tips on working through our roadmap and coaching our clients and prospecting and selling all of it. And then beyond that, scheduling out a mentor coach to work with them and putting times on the calendar to get them going and offer support and onboarding all along the way. Guys, it's not all fluff. There's substance and intentionality every step of the way. And so here's what I want you to hear. People, they no longer just show up to receive a paycheck. They do want that security, but the game has changed. And so how can we start thinking about recruiting like a D1 college football team? Now, that doesn't mean that you take jets and put jets in your storage yard, right? And have people come climb all over it. No, that's silly. That's college football, right? But how can we start thinking about it a little bit and saying, all right, instead of just doing the same old interview, instead of just doing the same old ad on Facebook or Indeed or whatever it is, how do we put some substance out there, some spectacle out there to get people excited to come and work where we work? They don't just want to show up and figure it out. No, they want to be seen it. They want to be shown it. They want to see it, and they want to experience it. So we talked about the process side, getting your business ready. We talked about recruiting, getting the right talent, looking at your business. Now, how do we know out of all those people that are with us, who do we hire? Well, you guessed it. I'm assuming it all starts with a process. So we have their attention, right? we need to go back to that foundation, and it's simple. Let's build out your hiring process. Here at BOP, we work with each of our clients to build out their own hiring process. And oftentimes it really looks different for each level of employee we're hiring or each sub we want to vet. But let me walk you through it a little bit. This is the BOP hiring process right here. Okay, you can see at the top, we've got our pre-recruiting. We define the gap, the role, right? What needs to happen in the business? Not, well, we found this really, really awesome person. How do we create a role that fits that person? No, that's going to get you in trouble, because as soon as that person potentially leaves, we're left with the role that the business didn't actually need. And so we always start by defining, what does the business need? What's the budget? What's the role? Anybody internal that we could actually, hire? And if not, great, we move on. We do a first phone interview where we're discussing some just kind of potential things, getting to know them a little bit and deciding if we want to bring them in for a live interview. We share our vision, our mission, our values. We share org charts and all this stuff because we want them attracted to who we are as a business and where we're headed as a business before we ever talk compensation. How many of you guys have been in, or hired somebody, and within the first 60 days, you realize that they were not a great cultural fit? The only reason they came is for the paycheck, right? They heard that they could make $18 an hour with you, but no, they don't line up with your core values. They don't line up with your mission. And as soon as they get paid $2 more an hour, they're heading somewhere else. No, we line up and put the mission, the vision, the values in first, and then we tell them to take them back. We give them some due diligence items, right? We do a disc profile. We do a working genius. This is all what we do at BOP. I'm not saying you have to do every one of these steps, but we go really, really in depth on what we're asking them to do. And then the second live interview is when we actually talk through performance expectations, compensation specifics, deep dive into role, and all of that good stuff right there. Sometimes we'll even take them out for a spouse dinner, right? Because if they got crazy at home, at some point crazy's coming to work with them, right? And so it's people laugh about it all the time, but it can be a really great affirmation, confirmation to, man, this person's got a great support structure. And then even their spouse can hear the mission and the vision and where they're headed. And when times get tough, they say, nope, we know that this is where you want to be. This is where you need to be. So here's the question we're trying to answer with this is, how can we be intentional in every step of the hiring process? How can we weed people out before we hire them instead of realizing a month in that they were a bad fit? Are there any practical skills that we need to see? Are there any questions that they need to answer? Do we need to get time with them outside and let their hair down a little bit and just see what they're like? We want to lengthen intentionally the hiring process to allow these red, yellow flags to show up. And instead of doing what most people do, which is just get it done as quickly as possible, right? Because, man, we didn't know they were leaving and we got a hole and on and on and on. No, we got to intentionally stretch it out and allow for the red flags to pop up. Disney CEO spends 60% of his week on hiring, 60%, because that he knows to keep the magic of Disney alive, it's all about the people he brings onto the bus. So build the foundation of process to bring the new employees into, recruit like a D1 football program, and then create a hiring process to identify out of those recruits who's the right fit for your business. Then you can attract them to your vision before you ever talk about money, on and on and on. Instead of the compensation first, then realizing months later they aren't on board. No, we got to flip-flop that. We got to get them on the right people on the team and then support them to keep them for a long, long time. So real quick, if there are any questions about that, I want you to go ahead and throw them in the chat window. We're going to come back to those in just a little bit. So if you had a quick question pop into your head, please, 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 come on, throw that in there real quick. And then I'm going to dive in on one other thing, because I want to ask you a few practical questions. For anybody here who's not a client especially, I want to ask you 3 serious questions. So take out a sheet of paper or jot it down on a note on your phone, whatever you want to do. I want you to write down the answers to these. What has chaos cost you in the past, right? Because unless we know what it's cost us in the past, we don't really have any reason for getting out of it in the future. So what toll has it taken on your personal life or you individually? What has chaos cost you in the past? Just jot down 2 or 3 thoughts on that real fast. The second question, what will chaos cost you in the future if not fixed? Had somebody come up to me recently and who I was doing a sales meeting with, and he just goes, like, man, what happens if you don't get some of this stuff fixed? He goes, Thomas, I'm going to have a heart attack. like in the near future. I go, well, let's fix that. I don't want you to have a heart attack, right? And then third, if chaos suddenly became easy, what would it mean for the people you love? What would it mean for your reputation, for your legacy, and what would you gain? Now, if any of you are like me, so often the things you hear or read, right, the podcast, books, whatever, they're great. And people are like, hey, that book you read a year ago, what'd you get from it? And I'm like, shoot, I forgot to implement it. Now, I'm a coach, and so I'm going to coach you and push you to do something different right now. Look back at that page, right, that you just wrote stuff down. If you don't do anything with it, it's just like crumpling it up and tossing it into the trash. What does chaos cost you? Well, maybe it's too many midnight rides of bidding and estimating till you're cross-eyed. Maybe it's a loss of passion that you loved your job at one point. Now you just hate it. Maybe it's your marriage, your relationship with your kids, money, sanity, loss of sales and momentum, years of wishing and never doing. Well, what is possible if chaos becomes easier? Well, I could finally trust somebody else to estimate and free me to focus on my unique value to the business. I could just enjoy work again or rekindle the love for my family, my spouse. Maybe just be present when I'm in the ball field and not constantly be taking phones during my kids' games. Maybe I just wouldn't feel like I've wasted my years or I don't know, grow my business that allows growth for our team. Well, I want to tell you, if you've never been around business on purpose before, that is what we help with. And I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you a little bit about who we are. We work with businesses 2 to 100 employees that build systems, process, and purpose, customized to your business, leveraging our business on purpose roadmap, right? We have a plan for where we want to take all of our clients, and we provide hundreds of owners just like you liberation from the chaos they're looking for. And so if you're curious after this, you're like, man, can I just speak with somebody? Great. We've had a few of our coaches graciously clear a few hours of their schedule today and then next week to make some time to meet with you. Now, if you get on this Calendly link right here, you can pull your phone up. You can just take a little picture of that Calendly link. A little thing will pop up. You can click on it, and that is a link to Brandon's Calendly. If Brandon fills up, I'll take some extras on there. And so no worries there. If for some reason that time doesn't work for you, reach back out. We just want to get 30 minutes with you to talk through some stuff with you to help you out. No questions asked. We really do just want to help liberate you from chaos so that all those things you wrote down are not an excuse anymore. And so if that doesn't work, if you want to follow this link right here, you can also sign up for this. It's calendly.com/BOP Brandon. That's calendly.com/BOP Brandon. So either of those works. A few stipulations for that time. We would just ask that you be the business owner, that your business owner is present. Never fails. We get somebody in there and they're just frustrated, right? And they just have a vent session. This is not the vent session. We'd love to get on with you and your business owner and just have an honest conversation about what's going on. We'd love for you to have been in business for 2 years and meet that criteria for 2 to 100 employees. Hopefully you fit somewhere in there. But if you're a startup, that's not exactly our wheelhouse. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. We would send you kind of towards a business incubator there. And then the third thing, if you sign up for a time, please show up. If not, it's taken a slot from somebody else who wants it. And in the past, we've filled up, and then we've had 1 or 2 miss, and people have followed up to try to get those slots, and it can just be a little bit frustrating. So please, if you sign up, be there. So, all right, I am going to go into some of these questions real quick. So let me see any good questions. Jesse, do you mind highlighting any of these that were good? I didn't see any in the meeting chat. So if you want to come out or come off mute real quick and ask any questions, great. If not, that's kind of the end of our time. We'd love to help build some of this recruiting and hiring stuff out with you. So please schedule a time with Brandon or myself, and we will hop on there. So any questions from anybody today? Anything at all? Well, again, thank you all so much for being here today. I'm going to just play a little bit of music. I'll be on here for a minute or two. If anything pops up, great. If not, we will send you on your way. And thank you all again. We're trying to do one of these every month or so, just to be a resource for small businesses. So if there's ever a subject that you're like, could you guys write a masterclass on this? Email us, reach out to us. We would love to make content for you guys that's centered on stuff that you're struggling with. So again, thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm going to play a little music, and if you got any questions, come on. If not, we will see you guys. You'll have a great weekend. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? So I run a small medical clinic. There's 6 people, And we're trying to recruit right now for a nurse, which has become really very difficult.
Yeah.
Or a medical assistant, whatever. We're kind of going down the, it doesn't have to be an RN, but really an employee a staff person becomes valuable for us at about a year, because it takes a while to learn everything. And so I've been trying to think of ways to be creative about recruiting in such a way that we pick someone who's looking for a long-term job rather than the next thing, and then I'll be a travel nurse, or like the example you gave of someone who is going to leave the next time they get offered $2 more an hour. So any overall
that's a great question.
That?
So the question was, just to recap, make sure we're on the same page, hiring an RN, right? And looking for somebody knowing that they're not really going to be profitable until a year in. How do you keep somebody for the long run? And how do you find somebody that really has that kind of long-term approach and isn't just, well, try it out for 6 months and, move on if it's not exactly what I'm looking for. Is that correct? Liz, is that correct? You may have been on mute.
Sorry.
there.
Yes. My dog was barking.
Okay, great.
Yes, that is correct.
So I would say two things. One would be, I think, being very transparent in the interview process of here is what we're looking for. Obviously when you get their resume or whatever it is, and if they're bouncing around every 6 months to a year, like they can tell you they're looking for long-term, but history is showing you that they're not. Right. And so I tend to go way more off of experience and way more off of what you've done versus what you're telling me. So that would be one thing, is being really transparent up front. There are some things you can do with compensation to I don't know, put that kind of carrot out in front of them for them to stay long-term, be it, hey, we're going to start you here. There's going to be a bonus if you stay this long. There's, some of that stuff. But the last thing I would say, Liz, are you a client of ours? Or are you kind of new to the BOP world?
I'm not. I'm new to the BOP world.
Awesome. So we have a tool that we call the culture calendar. We kind of get to it towards about the 8-month mark of working with our coaches. But it's really building in, all right, if this is the culture that I want to create, and this is the business that I want people to kind of give them some stickiness to where they stick around for a long time, what are those kind of inputs? Is it, all right, we're having regular check-ins with them. We're paying them well. We're doing team meetings to train them well. We're doing team days, once a quarter, we bring in lunch for everybody and just have fun. We're remembering birthdays and anniversaries, things like that. And so a lot of that, I think, gets pushed to the side, especially when business gets really, really busy. And we don't think that, we think that it's all out of our hands, whether they come or go. When I think, all right, that just means that we need to go on the offensive and build a business that somebody wants to stick around for a long time. You know what I'm saying there? Instead of, well, they may leave or may not leave. Well, how do we build the business that they want to stick around here? And maybe within the first month of them being here, starting to do some of these check-ins that we talk about pretty regularly, and asking them, hey, what is our business lacking right now that would help you want to stay for a long time? And just having the conversation versus just kind of crossing your fingers and hoping on some of that. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Yeah. I just implemented a bonus for our current nurse. I mean, ideally we'll have 3 nurses, but our current nurse, that's based on like the number of quarters you've worked with us. So yeah, these past 2 quarters, because we've had only temporary people, she's gotten 100% of the bonus. And in part, I told her, once we're fully staffed, we're back to man-to-man defense. Yeah. Your bonus may be lower, but your job should be easier. But then if we have, again, that somebody comes for a while and they leave, then your compensation will adjust because you'll get more of the bonus pool. If someone, I've tried to kind of, build in something to reward longevity, because I don't just want to compete on price trying to get somebody. I'd rather, like you said, reward if you for this long you get this bonus, or that sort of thing. So those are good thoughts. And
this is the culture calendar I was just telling you about. We have basically, what are we committing to weekly, and it's team meetings and check-ins with your supervisor and, performance reviews from time to time. We literally schedule it out for the entire year. We have all of our birthdays, our anniversaries. So at our team meeting, we can look 3 weeks out and say, oh, it's Jesse's birthday is coming up in 2 weeks. We're all going to write her a card, or we're going to plan a lunch out as a team or something like that. I don't know how big your team is. Even kids and spouses' birthdays. Oh, tell us how, Robbie's birthday was last week. Just stuff so they feel remembered. Then we have other stuff. What do we want to commit to monthly? Well, we've got some stuff here that we build out throughout the whole year. We do some team prayer days. We have some local nonprofits that we partner with, that as teams we go and do some work with. We have thoughts quarterly. What do we want to do quarterly as a team to make sure we're building the culture that we want? What are we doing semi-annually and annually? And it's actually a calendar that we pull up at every single team meeting. And we're hoping to build the culture that our team wants to stick around at for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
It's great. Thank you for the question. Anybody else?
Thank you.
We got a Better Crawl's youngest member on the line. Love that. Future of the business right there. All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and end the meeting. So thank you guys so much for being here. We will have this recorded. If you would like to rewatch or send to anybody, please let us know. We'd be happy to get that to you, and we'll get information out for when the August Masterclass will be. So thank y'all so much. Have a great weekend.